Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mental Fitness. I am with my friend who is an Indiana State House representative. And she is going to talk about what it has been like at the Indiana State House this past session that just ended. And she's going to talk about her mental fitness. Like, how hard of a job is this? How does she handle it? How does she wake up beautiful every day with a smile on
Mhm.
her face when that is a tough job? So, Wendy, thanks so much for joining us. And how are you today?
Great, Sarah. Thank you so much for not only having me on your show, but doing this. People need to know what's going on for the people who are making decisions affecting their lives. So thank you for just putting yourself out there and doing this week after week.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. It's been really hard and wonderful. And yeah, people need to know there's not enough news, especially down here in Southern Indiana, about what is going on at the State House, what laws are happening, what things are going on, what people are doing hard work to try to make things better. There's just not enough known about it. So
Yes.
I became a media company.
Good.
So Wendy, let's talk about your start at the Indiana State
Mhm.
House. You were like appointed, someone retired. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
So in May of a year ago, just over a year ago, Dr. Rita Fleming, who had held the position as state representative for District 71 for 5 years or so, she decided to retire, and people who knew anybody who knew Rita or knows Rita, she's happy, and we want her to be happy. So she has been great. But Dr. Fleming and Steve Stemler before her really have had created a reputation for District 71 of being very thoughtful, being very open to ideas and thoughts. And my goal really has been to follow in both of their footsteps because they've been great. So I was caucused in the end of May of 24. Sworn in on June 4th. And as I joke, I say I was sworn in on June 4th and sworn at on June 5th because it didn't take time at all. But learning the role, jumping into what was my first campaign, I've never run for office before, really was a busy summer. And I'm glad that the way things worked out for me. And I'm thrilled that I've got my first session of the Indiana General Assembly behind me.
Yes, so that's where we met. I ran for State House Rep in District 70, and it's a very gerrymandered district. I did not win, but I got to meet you on the campaign trail because we share a couple counties.
Mhm.
District 70 shares Clark and Floyd, I believe, with you. So that was nice. That's when I met you and like became your friend and saw how like wonderful you are. And the
Well,
way you described the past two representatives, you definitely are that. So they
good.
did a really good job of finding you and asking you. And just thanks for stepping up and taking on that role and then running a campaign. And congratulations on winning. It was a
Thank you.
tough
Thank
night. I'm
you.
really glad you won. Okay, so tell us a little bit about you win. You got caucused in, but the session was mostly over, so you didn't have like like things to do. But this time you were busy. What did you have to do?
So we had to report in Indianapolis on January 8th.
Okay.
And so between June and November, I was running a campaign like so many. And then really from November to January, I was trying to get a feel for what job am I going to be doing now once session begins. So we reported to Indianapolis on January 8th and instantly went into it's almost like you're joining a Ferris wheel that's going around and around, and you're trying to jump on board, and it's not really slowing down for you. It just keeps going.
Oh yeah.
So the learning curve, and if I could start with maybe the three takeaways that
Sure.
I have from my first session. The first, now let me give a little context here. I am one of 30 Democrats in the House, and there are a total of 70 Republicans. 100 House members, they have 70, we have 30.
So you're in the minority,
I'm in
and
the
it's
minority.
a super majority where they can just
Yes.
override everything you could ever possibly want.
That is absolutely true. And basically, they could even override a governor's veto without a Democratic vote. So we have to think through what the dynamics are there. But I will say, I went to Indianapolis And to a person, I was treated with nothing but respect.
Oh, that's nice.
And as a and it wasn't just me, I think most of us were. As Hoosiers, we should be excited about that. We should recognize, it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be mean. Nobody's calling each other names. We're going up there and we're working on behalf of those in our districts.
So it's not like at DC and Congress where you hear all of these terrible fights and name calling, even though it's 70-30, everybody's respectful in that room.
Everyone is respectful. Now, did we fight like heck about issues? At times, yes. I can remember one debate that got maybe a little personal, and the Speaker of the House jumped in and shut that part of it down, and we went back to discussing the issues. So as Hoosiers, the process, that people go in there as adults and they recognize there's a process, and we're going to respect that. So that was the first, nothing but respect.
Okay, that's nice to hear.
It's good to say too. I have to say that. Secondly, even though I had worked in state government for 8 years and had spent over 11 years advocating on behalf of the business community, being up at the State House, I would say that my learning curve was still a lot steeper than I thought it would be. And again, that Ferris wheel doesn't slow down for me. You just have to jump on. And that part of it was a bit of a surprise to me, and maybe a little bit of a wake up call. It's just different. And part of the reason is it moves so quickly. This was the long session. We were there until the almost the end of April. And
so next year is like 3 months, but this session was 4 months.
Exactly. Okay. So I thought it moved fast this year. I can't imagine how I'm going to feel next year, but I at least will know a heck of a lot more and hopefully be able to navigate the system knowing what's coming at me. So that's the second thing. The third is we forget. I don't want to say forget. I was amazed at how different a statewide issue looks depending on where you're sitting. And so one of the committees I serve on is the Roads and Transportation Committee. And as the committee just debated certain issues, it was interesting how roads, something as simple as how do we make sure our roads are safe and passable, and we have the funding for it. It looks different in Southern Indiana, where we have a lot of growth. So there's a lot of new infrastructure comparatively, to sitting with someone from East Chicago who is really concerned about local roads because they've got their own issues up there around the interstate system and how that affects their local roads, compared to Indianapolis. And Indianapolis has, quite frankly, I stayed about 20 minutes north of the State House. So every night I would drive north, and then every morning I'd drive south. And the roads are like driving on the moon. They are terrible.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that too. My brother lives in Indy, and it's like, what is going on?
It's just it's okay. Road funding sounds like a simple. Let's find a solution. It just looks different. So that was another big aha, that there are the perspectives that we bring have to be discussed. And I have to explain to people what it's like living in Southern Indiana and what the influences are. And people in Northern Indiana and Central Indiana and more rural communities had to tell me the same thing.
That's interesting. So you have to pass a budget, is that right? For all this funding, for all these different things. And there's probably just not enough time in the day to read everything that you're passing too. I would think that would be really difficult.
Probably the one that's most critical, or in my mind, of course, is on a lot of people's minds, and that's Senate Bill 1, the property tax bill. And again, property taxes don't go to state government. They go to fund local government through police, fire, local services. You've got local schools, you've got your libraries. So local property taxes really don't fund what the state government does, but yet we have oversight on that. And that I believe it was 347 pages of that bill passed out of the House on second reading with lots of amendments on a Wednesday, and we had to vote on it Thursday morning.
How can you possibly look at it? That doesn't make sense to me.
Luckily, we have digests, which if a great learning session is just to go on the state website, the iga.in.gov, and really just sort of look at the bills. Knowing in advance what they look like helps. But so there are tools of the trade or tricks that it's all available to the public. The other thing that I think is always interesting is what's the fiscal impact? Because if a piece of legislation has a true fiscal impact where it affects the state budget, or they can project what the effect is going to be on locals, they try to put that out there. Does that make everybody happy? No, but it's better to know what you're concerned about and have some numbers in your back pocket than to try to figure it out with just a guessing game.
So are you getting done with your day and then just trying to study what you're going to have to vote on the next morning?
A lot of times that was the case. Now, the committees that I was on, none of them met until 10:30 in the morning. And I'm a morning person. So a lot of times I would, skim things in the evening, shut the laptop, get a good night's sleep, and go into the office early to pick up where I left off and say, okay, now I get to focus and with a fresh mind, really start focusing on how is this going to impact the voters in my district, but also how is it going to affect good policy across the state.
My biggest question I have for you when you're working in that room with these 99 other people, are any of them listening to you? Like, are you going to Republicans and saying, this bill would hurt Hoosiers, would hurt the majority of Hoosiers if we pass this bill? Is there anything we could do to work together to get it better? Was there any of that going on? Because, I ran for this. If I would have won, that's what I imagined I would be doing, trying to convince the people that have the supermajority to vote better for Hoosiers. Is that happening at all?
All the time. All the time. And so the majority of the bills, I wish I had the numbers. We passed as the General Assembly, we passed 244 bills.
Wow.
And Governor Braun signed every one of them.
Every single one of them. And if he said no, they could just go back and veto them, right?
They could have.
Supermajority. We didn't even have to. We didn't even have to. He signed yes to every single one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think if the governor had raised an objection to one, the members of both parties, both chambers would have taken that seriously.
You think?
I think they would have. But it wasn't the option. It just didn't happen this time.
Right.
A lot of the work is done in committees, and as a Democrat with only 30 members. Democrats serve on a lot of committees because our numbers are smaller. We have to serve on more committees.
So what committees are you in?
I had 4 of them. I had roads and transportation, financial institutions, insurance, and then small business, commerce, and economic development, which is my background. So,
okay.
So those were the 4 that, there's a little bit of say. You get to lobby for, I want this one or that one. And I got 2 of them that I really wanted, and I didn't get 2 that I didn't want, but I'm real happy with the others that I have.
That's good.
The committee conversation is very important, and it doesn't always take place at the committee meeting. If I had a bill, which I did, I had an insurance bill. It went through the insurance committee. It was passed because I lobbied the chairman and said, this is why this is a good idea. Not in a way of doing anything that says, I really want this done for me, but this is a good idea for the senior citizens that are on the original Medicare plan in Indiana.
Did it get turned into a bill?
It did. It passed. Yes, it passed the insurance committee. We had to amend it on the House floor because there was a clarification concern that was brought to our attention by the insurance companies. So we did that. It passed the House unanimously. And
so what is it going to do? What is this bill?
So the bill is called, it basically models what Kentucky and 8 other states have done in allowing seniors who are on original Medicare, if they have a supplement plan, so the lettered plans, A, B, C, F, N, if they have a supplement plan, the plan is dictated by the feds as to what that plan is supposed to do, but the prices vary greatly. So if I'm at age 6, if I get to age 65 and I join or I sign up for one of these plans, I can't transfer insurance providers. I can't go to another plan that may be cheaper. It's the same program without going through medical underwriting. So Kentucky and 8 other states have a loophole. It's called the birthday rule. So we now have the birthday rule in Indiana that takes place January 1st, 2026. Within 60 days of your birthday, you can shop different plan providers and decide whether or not you want to take a different provider.
So for 2 months around your birthday, you can shop plans and get a different one. So you try out a plan for a year, it's not a good one for you, you could get another one.
Well, if you stay within the same plan.
Okay.
But let me give a little more detail. We ran a search and we just said, you know what, we're gonna quote the 36 companies that provide coverage in Indiana. We're gonna quote for a 70-year-old female non-smoker. And the prices ranged between about $110 a month to $440 a month for the same coverage. So if I got stuck in one of those plans without going through medical underwriting, let's say I had a blood test that showed a high level of something, or I had diabetes or something along those lines, I couldn't switch plans without going through medical underwriting. But so now I can do that within 60 days.
Okay. Well, good job for getting that passed. Hopefully that'll help people.
That was a whole goal. That's a whole reason
I didn't know that happened. I did not know that happened because there's so many bills, there's so many laws. It's hard for me to keep track of them, and I just keep hearing about bad ones.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's what we lean towards. But there were the majority of the bills that are passed, at least out of the House. I can only imagine it's similar in the Senate. The majority of them are bipartisan, and wow. Meaning the voting that we do is there are bipartisan. I was amazed at how many were unanimous or close to it. But it's not because, I don't think it's because we're all just rubber stamping things. We get up and we have testimony, we make amendments, we try to make the bills better. And if we can then do that, then everybody feels good about it. So they vote yes. So
I don't understand. Like, it's so interesting hearing this from you. It seems like, some of these people or a lot of these people at the State House are trying to help. I don't understand why they're doing stuff like harming public education. So, I mean, that's my confusion.
Yeah. I don't have a good answer, and I don't have a good solution. What I can say is there are, let's talk in general. In general, there's just different philosophies on things. And unfortunately, some of what I think are bad ideas got through. And you do what you can. You try to make a difference. It's just hard to build the momentum to stop something when you're in the minority party. And I would imagine
that was my main campaign thing that I ran on, was saving public education, stopping the defunding. And when I did meet Republicans like Karen Engelman, when I would see her at an event, which she came to very few, but she would come to Farm Bureau ones, it just seemed like she really believed what she was saying about school choice and vouchers. Mm-hmm. And I would try to explain, we don't have those schools in Harrison County. It's defunding the public schools in our county and giving money to other private and charter and religious schools in other areas, particular cities in Indy. And it was just like, I wasn't even being heard. They're just like, nope, what I'm doing is good. So I felt like, especially now when I'm trying to reach out and talk to Republicans, I just feel like there's some misinformation about the defunding of public schools, and that it's really reached your level where you guys get to pass and turn this stuff into law. And I'm very frustrated about that. It's like, well, how do we fix this? So especially people in rural areas understand that this is hurting rural kids that need public education. And you weren't on public education committees, right. You were getting a good bill passed, so good job. And this is your first time really in a legislative session. I'm just wondering, do you have any advice for those of us that are watching this show that care about public education? What can we do to help you all at the state level get better stuff passed?
Coming back after some of this, now you're right, I wasn't on education, but my seatmate, the person who sat next to me on the House floor was a 32-year educator. And so a lot of times she and I would have those conversations, or a bill would come up. I'm like, what happened in committee? How did this happen? And it's hard to say, here's the blanket answer, because there is no blanket answer. Somebody came up and testified and really made an impassioned piece. That's a key. Having a presence in the State House makes a difference. And it's not just come up and serve lunch, because Lord knows we get a bunch of lunch opportunities when, just by walking through the State House. It's more of a, how do I have a conversation, and how do I testify in front of a committee? It's become easier to do that because now you can sign up online. You don't have to get there. If you have somebody who's helping you get in front of a committee, whether or not I'm on the committee, I can help explain how that works. And then once you have the opportunity to testify, know what you're going to say. Don't be emotional, because emotions, I mean, you can
be more fact-based. That's good tip.
You got to be fact-based. And then you have to have a conclusion. Here's what would, and if the
so have like a solution. We would like this to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. Change this part of the bill.
The best testifiers I saw were mostly the lobbyists. I learned a lot from our lobbyists. We couldn't do our jobs without them. But the lobbying community will typically say, okay, this bill has 3 parts. My client likes numbers 1 and number 3, but here's our concern with number 2. We understand number 2 is trying to do this, but here's a better way of doing that, or another way of doing that doesn't harm us. That oversimplifies it, but the best testimony are those that follow that type of a cadence, and then tries to figure out how to better keep it short, succinct, and very factual. Because
that is very helpful. So are you meeting with like Who's Your Action people? Because I've been talking to them lately. Do they get meetings and they come up, and do they try to do that and explain the parts of the bill?
They do that. Yes. AARP was great at that.
So they're helping for senior stuff?
Yep.
And then is there is there a public education people doing this?
The Indiana State Teachers Association. Then you've got your school board superintendents have an association, or your school boards and your superintendents. You have retired teachers groups. So there are a lot of folks at the State House. And I would say, when I worked for state government back in as my daughter would say, the 1900s, it was in the 1990s. But there are a lot more lobbyists today and a lot more associations. We had a bill, I'll tell another quick story, on the Commerce, Small Business, and Economic Development Committee. One hearing, we had 3 bills to hear. We heard from the bill was called Human Remains. So we were dealing with a form of liquefied cremation that is less energy. It takes less energy than cremation, and it has some benefits. In Indiana, it was one of the states that didn't allow that. So we heard that bill. We heard the next bill on a substance I'd never heard of before called kratom, which is it's a caffeine-like substance that helps people who have addiction issues get off of
nice
onto that. And then the third bill was on sports. We have this esports is becoming an industry of its own. What are we doing to promote that in Indiana? And I'm like, I just remember walking out of that committee going, wow, we learned about 3 completely different things in an hour and a half. And if it weren't for these lobbyists and the people testifying, I wouldn't know any more about it today than I knew about it when I read the bill last night. So that's what I think. There are a lot of folks who come into those committees like me who are saying, let me hear what you have to say.
And do you think a lot of people are listening? A lot of other state reps are listening to them and changing the laws?
I do. Let me give you another example, Sarah. There was a bill. So I got off the sidelines because I thought it was horrendous what a former sheriff has done to not only my county, but a lot of Southern Indiana.
You're speaking about Jamie Knoll.
Yes, I made a big stink about that. That we had to do better than that. We can do better than that, and we deserve better. So
right.
There was a prominent Republican House member who had a bill before the election. He'd already drafted a bill that would create more fiscal oversight on the sheriff's commissary fund.
Is this Ed Clear?
No. Somebody up in Hendricks County.
Oh, okay.
I had a similar bill, but his bill had momentum, and he had bipartisan support.
Is he a Republican? So that's even better.
Well, he had Democrat Mitch Gore from Indianapolis as a co-author of the bill, so there was no places left. So I went in front of that committee when they heard his bill to testify as a representative, but I felt strongly about it. So I went and I gave my testimony and explained. I said, and I love Representative Stuart Wald's bill. It's going to give increase the oversight from 2 times a year to 3 times a year. I said, I would really like to see that move to 4 times a year. And a member of that committee, a Republican, said, why wouldn't we do it 4 times a year? That just seems natural. They changed it on the spot. They did what's called a chairman's amendment, and they changed it to 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
So in my first, and that was the very first time none of my bills had been heard or anything. It made a difference.
Way to go.
Well, thank you. But everybody can do that.
Yeah.
It's putting the focus there, putting your strategy together, getting your champions who are going to help you understand the process. And then when you get to the point of making a difference, you go, okay, people do care. They do want to do the right thing, or they do want to try to make things better, or at least, even if they hadn't, Sarah, I would have felt heard.
Right.
And I think that's an important piece of it as well.
So if you're watching this and you have a passion that you care about and that you want to be changed or advocate for in Indiana, find these groups that are fighting at the State House, that are working and having conversations, and join them. Maybe you can come in and speak about it.
Yes.
And it does help.
It does.
It's really kind of mind-blowing what you're telling me, because the version that I see is these are extremists and they're voting almost all laws that hurt us. That's what I'm seeing. And then, of course, a lot of laws that came out are hurting us, like the public education, defunding public education. School boards are partisan now. That brings politics into our kids' schools even more. And then there's a bunch of gatekeeping that can happen. You can stop good people from running for school board. The chairs of Republicans and Democrat parties now have way more power over schools. The libraries, they cut library funding by 30%. I don't understand how that happened. If these people are, and I believe you when you're telling me they care and they're doing these things, I just don't understand how the library bill got passed. Do you know what I'm saying?
So let's talk about budgeting, because Senate Bill 1 is a property tax issue. And I have had people scream at me and say my property taxes are too high. And that's something that I think
we have that problem in Harrison County too.
We have all heard that, and let's be honest, this Governor Bryan campaigned very strongly on property tax issues, and got a lot of people focused on it. If libraries are funded, now again, the library funding formula is different. There are property taxes that go into it. There's a lot of federal programs that come in as well. So they're sorting through a lot right now. I met with the Jeff Township Library Director earlier this week. And yes, he's going to hit next year. His budget's going to be about $113,000 less than what it is today. That's a challenge, and I'm not excusing it, but as a state, we had to look at our revenue projections. So we got a revenue projection on April 16th that said that based on what we thought we were going to get, the last forecast that came out in December, we are now $2.4 billion less in that projection. Now, it's not a deficit because it's not something that we'd already budgeted towards, but we had to pass a budget that accommodated a $2.4 billion revenue decrease. So a lot of things didn't get the money. Now, I will say.
So we're not getting as much money because of what's happening at federal? Is that
It's
what you're
just,
saying?
somebody asked me that to describe how this forecast is put into place. I had to call Uncle. I don't know how. I
Okay.
don't know how they did it. I'm not saying I couldn't. It's just I was not focused on that. I'm not on the.
Right. Well, there's so much that you're supposed to know. I
Well,
don't know it. Yeah. Yeah.
I need to learn because it is really important. But the forecast said that basically, for whatever reason, the economy doesn't seem to be producing the revenue that we thought it was going to.
Okay.
So everybody took a hit. Everybody took a hit. 5%. Every agency had at least a 5% hit, except public schools. Public schools got a 2% increase while everybody else took a hit. So
But a bunch of money went towards vouchers. Now parents that have a bunch of money can get a voucher and send their kid for wherever, and then it strips the money from public schools. So I just don't understand this.
it,
It doesn't make sense to me.
it was all part of the same bill, and the supermajority wanted that to happen.
So
That
that's my biggest complaint. That
then,
if they're really looking out for the majority of Hoosiers in this state, they should be not defunding public schools and they should be supporting libraries. And yes, do the property taxes, help people with their property taxes. I just don't understand why we're putting money into charter and religious schools, especially when there's loopholes in those charter schools where people are making money. They come in out of state, buy a charter school, set it up. It's kind of a scam. It doesn't even survive the whole year. And then they don't have to give the money back to the state. If they're so concerned about all this money, I don't understand why they don't fix that loophole. I just don't understand that part.
then I really encourage you and anybody who shares that thought to get to the State House next year. Make
So,
those things heard.
so
Because
next year, I would like to know from you. I know you're going to be busy. How exactly I can help the most. What
okay,
can I do? Well, how can I use my platform with Project Next? What can I do to help advocate for libraries, public education, the things that people need the most? And I will try to do it because
I
you know
love.
so much more that I don't, that I appreciate you telling me this stuff.
So there are a couple of things that I'll say. Number one, it's not, next year is not a budget year. So it as unless we have to open the budget because of some big surprise or unexpected funding cut from the feds that affect things that we're doing here. I don't know how that works, but the governor can call us to, or the governor can call us to a special session, or the General Assembly's leadership can decide to open the budget. It's not likely to happen. It hasn't happened in years. So what we can do is start planting the seeds. What are those bills that can either be drafted? And we've got to start drafting them now, because once LSA, Legislative Service Agencies, gives us a deadline on when they have to be filed, then I get in line with all 149 other members of the General Assembly to get our bills filed and written the way that we want them so that they have the best chance of succeeding. The IGA website is, I just want to, it's www.iga.in.gov. That website is where you can track all of the bills, and everything is listed, the full bill, the updated version, if it's updated, what the fiscal impact of that bill is going to be, if there is one, and then the actions and amendments that are offered to it. And when a committee is scheduled to hear a bill, committee chairs don't have to hear bills. There's no way that all of the bills would have been heard this session. But if they decide to hear a bill, you can find out when that hearing is, and you can participate. So even that, I think, would be beneficial to your listeners and viewers. Maybe it's just going onto that website and digging through and type in public education, and you would be amazed at how many bills have public education referenced in the bill.
So I've had the director of the Indiana Coalition for Public Education on a show. So I know that there's a group that are tracking the bills. What if they found the loophole with the charter schools that's allowing people to make money off of this scam? Because we need to tighten this loophole. What if they wrote an amendment or whatever? They wrote the legislation to close up the loophole, and they did it before the session start, and they kind of put it out there publicly. Are you saying that might have a chance of then?
I'm saying that if I were the committee chair, that approach would get my attention.
So that would be maybe one really good idea. Like,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
my guess is not everybody signing these bills into law understand the loophole or how to fix it. Because again, you're getting too many bills, you're getting too much paper, too many laws, not enough time to go over it. So you're saying if people went out and tried to do the work of cleaning it up, maybe there's a better chance of us fixing this problem.
Come to us with the solution.
Come to, okay.
What is the solution to the bill? What is the solution to, sorry, let me change that. What is the solution to the problem that would help alleviate your concerns? And some of that, Sarah, that you're talking about was part of the budget bill. So it was included in with everything else. It wasn't just a standalone bill. How do you get people to say, yeah, that's going to be a negative to someone who thinks like we do, that it's going to benefit the wrong people? Or on the other side, when public education's getting a 2% increase in their budget and everybody else is taking a cut, how do you balance that? How do you figure out which is the right decision for my district, or in your case, my community?
I really like Hoosier Action. You and I were at an event and you actually got to speak because you were a representative. And I like what they're doing. They're talking about certain bills that were going to go to the State House and what things they wanted to see get passed. So is Hoosier Action sort of doing this a way that helps you all? It's giving solutions.
They're very communicative. Yeah, that's the right word, I guess. They're very good at communicating what they do. I met with a part of their leadership group earlier this week as well, because they want to do that type stuff at the State House. But the real time to get our attention is now, because we're not sitting in that bubble where there's 200 lobbyists every day in the hallway waiting to talk to us.
Right.
So now get us out, get us talking, start to get the attention. And I will say, you got to attract more flies. What is it? You attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Right.
So get in front of them and say, this is why this is important to me. We may, at the end of this, we may agree to disagree on everything, but maybe there's some common ground. Maybe there's.
What about the State House reps that won't listen to us? Like, I just want to have a conversation with Karen Engelman and I can't get a hold of her. I just get ignored. So I'm very appreciative of representatives like yourself that will reach out, that will talk. Like Ed Clear, Republican, he will talk to people. I appreciate that. And now that I'm meeting friends that run these organizations like Hoosier Action, I'm finding out who they'll listen to and who just cuts them off. And what do we do there? They won't have a meeting with us.
I don't have a solution for that. I'm sorry, I don't.
Other than maybe vote them out, vote somebody better in that
will
listen.
Or, if they do their jobs, they're supposed to be at the State House when we're in session. So I would say I'm not a big fan of the ambush method, because a lot of times I want to listen to somebody. And if you're catching me as I'm walking in, if I've got 2 minutes,
scary.
If I get 2 minutes to go from the basement to the third floor to sit for session and I haven't been to the restroom all morning, you're not going to get my best. I'll be the first to admit that. But maybe that's an option to schedule time in their place in the State House. I don't know. I just
think we should publicly, like I will say it on Project Next, this rep will meet with people. This rep will not meet with people, but I'm not going to bully them. Like, I don't like the approach that a lot of Democrats are taking right now, where they hold town halls and they invite the person, but it's going to be all people angry at that person, at that representative. Then they put up like a cardboard cutout of them, or they put up a sign and then they're like yelling. Why would that representative go to that meeting? It looks scary for them. So I think there's a better approach, asking for a cordial meeting, being respectful to them, and just talking honestly without emotion, without negative emotion, and just like, trying to meet them where they're at and see if we can get some improvement. That seems better to me. And it's hard for me to tell Democrats, because they're like, Sarah, will you come speak at this event? And I'm like, no, this is an event that looks like we're bullies. I'm not going to that. Do you know what I'm saying?
And I think that's why, or I think politics have become so ugly that there are a lot of people who don't want to get involved because it scares them, or why would
Yes.
you've been there. Why would you put yourself and your family and your friends through all of that scrutiny? I mean, I gave all of my friends T-shirts with my name across it, and some of them were like, "Thanks, I appreciate that, but I don't want to walk through the grocery store and have somebody, assume I know what you did this week." I get
Yeah.
that.
Like, I would imagine there's people angry at you that want to yell at you, and you're in there really trying to do your best, and you're learning, you're new, and it's so much information. How does this play on your mental health? Like, I want to know, you had to leave your family Monday through Thursday, right? Did you
Mhm.
go up Monday morning and then leave Thursday night?
Almost every week. My
And you
daughter
have
plays
you have
basketball, so
kids.
I did hit her games. I did come home on her game nights because I've certain things I wasn't
So
going to
you would
miss.
drive home, catch your game, and then drive up early the next morning?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And it seems even harder for people on the bottom and top of Indiana that are having a 2-hour drive or more than 2 hours. How is this on your mental health? Like, doing this for the first time, and you're going to do it again next year, and hopefully you'll run again. I mean, what's it
I was
like?
um about 4 weeks in, I just about threw my hands up and said, "What am I doing here? This is." I kept waiting for the master plan to come together. You had all of these things happening on both sides, and I wanted this master plan to come together. And then finally, after about 4 weeks, I finally got into my head, it's not going to come together. These things are this is a system, an imperfect system built by imperfect people. We're going to have to make the best of it. And so I changed my mindset, and it made the second half of session much more. I was just much calmer going into it, which was probably good for me. Um, I haven't figured out yet how to influence the process of that, and I may not ever. But I'm not going to give up because I think there's still
It
so
sounds
many
like you're doing it. I mean, you went in there in that committee and you advocated for 4 checks and balances a year instead of 3. It sounds like you already started. So I bet you're going to
well,
do it even more next year.
the process piece of it's just so ingrained, and it's been decades. And yes, the Republicans have a super majority, but a long time ago when the Democrats had at least the majority, it probably was the same system. So I don't know that piece of it's going to be any different. I'm not optimistic it's going to change drastically anytime soon. But the system people can be heard. I want to go back to your question. How do you get somebody who doesn't take your appointment or your meeting? How do you get them to do that? I don't know. There are 150 of us, and we are all individuals with our own personalities, our own egos, because nobody does this if you don't have some type of an idea that you can do it better. So I can't crack that code for every individual that I consider a peer or a colleague. But what I can do is ask that give you the hints that I've learned. Keep it brief, keep it factual, talk about how this impacts something very, your community, your school, your gender, whatever it may be. Here's what's going on, and then thank them for listening. Because as humans, I would say to a person, we all go in thinking we're there for the right reasons.
You've helped so much by just telling us that. And I cannot ask enough that we don't go in yelling, hurt feelings, screaming at them, acting like they're monsters. I would say that's the worst. I would say you're hurting your cause if that's the attitude you're
Yes.
bringing. And I'm seeing a lot of people, some of them my friends, going to the state house with that energy. And you're saying it's not helping. That's what I thought. I
Well,
thought it wasn't helping. I mean,
it,
like the
how do
protests,
people
are the
like
protests helping that are at the state house when you're about to pass something that's going to hurt? Does that have any impact on you all, you think?
we don't know what's happening.
You
We don't
don't
know what's
see it
happening.
when it's filled up in that building and people
Well,
are.
okay. It can be loud, but the message is either, I mean, it's either yes or no. And that's all you get from it. Um, a bunch of people wearing the same color shirts on a day that, what group did that? Somebody did that on
Well,
Valentine's. Oh, it
we
was on
got
St.
red for Ed. We got red for Ed. I know.
It was St. Patrick's Day. Somebody showed up on St. Patrick's Day and all of their shirts were green. And so all of us who were wearing green were assumed to be part of their group that day. That ticked me off. I was like, oh, come on. That is a cheap way of making yourself feel supported. However, it was easier than just to walk past the message, because I never heard their message. They never talked to me about their message, because something I don't want to say it set me off, but yeah, it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I get that. So don't just protest. Also schedule meetings with the representatives that will listen to you, make a clear plan, be factual, have a solution. I would say that sounds more important than just showing up and protesting. You got to do both parts.
I couldn't say it any better. I mean, it's like every other aspect in life. If you go into it winging it, you get what you get. If you go into it with a strategy, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit this person. If I can't hit them, here's my plan B, my plan C. Those are the things that people that tend to work for people, whether it's your own household budget, whether it's your career, or whether it's your cause. That's the way people tend to, and then you can go back and measure it. Did that strategy work? Oh my God, I fell on my face. Guess what? I got to try something new next time.
Yeah. 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 This is helping so much. I just feel like as a mom in Indiana, I get overwhelmed and full of anxiety. And then that can lead me to panic. And then a protest feels good because you're getting some of that stress out. Mm-hmm. But in reality, you got to calm that anxiety down. That's why I started a mental fitness show. My first show was on anxiety. We got to calm our anxiety down, organize, work together, come up with a plan, then go. So it's going to take a little bit more time. It's going to take more community engagement. Get a plan, go to your state reps, get a meeting, stand up and lobby for the thing you care about. That has so much more impact than I think what a lot of us are doing. Like, are you on TikTok?
No.
TikTok is an interesting place because there's a lot of people that get on and do videos about what's going on at the state house, or they're saying this terrible thing, or national, this awful thing. And I think a lot of them are panicked and they don't know what else to do. And so they're making a video, and that's a good start because it's educating people about the issues. It's not always correct, but
yeah.
But then it's like, well, we need to organize, plan, meet state house reps, advocate. That's the next step that as users we need to take.
Let me add the next step to that. Advocate. Find a champion. Find a champion, and then listen to what that champion's advice may be for you.
So find a leader in that group that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. If it's an issue on a committee that I'm a part of, if I agree with you, I'll be your champion. I'll give you an example. There was, it may not be me, what I say or do. It may be me just giving you information. Here's what's happening. I'm not going to throw the name out, but there was a group, I'll just say independent pharmacies, who really were concerned and interested in what we were doing in the insurance committee with some certain bills. And so I created this dialogue with them. I think I finally met them once, but it was more of, hey, have you looked at this? What does this do for you? And I could say, this amendment just got filed, or here's what they're planning on doing. Do you have somebody here to testify? No, the rest of the committee may or may not have known that he and I were communicating as regularly as we were, but it doesn't matter because he was being informed. Well, it does matter, but he was being informed because I was sharing with him. We built up that rapport. Was I his personal champion? No, I really didn't know him, and I just knew that the issue was important to him, and I had information that could help.
That's great. I just am really appreciative that you're in this position of power and that you're fighting for us. And it just sounds really hard. I don't envy you.
Well, it doesn't. It may sound like power. It never feels like I'm in a position of power, but a position of knowledge sometimes is helpful.
Yeah. I think if people that want certain things to happen at the Indiana State House could have realized that these 150 people are all human beings with faults and strengths, and that most of them are trying to do good. I think that's what one thing you're trying to tell me, which is so comforting to hear, honestly. And then when they're not doing good, maybe they don't realize they're not doing good. And we need to do a better job of kindly informing them. You know, something else I'm concerned about, and I'm going to try to get the director of Citizens Action Coalition on the show, is what's going on with the energy bills. I
Oh, yeah.
know that I don't know all of the specific facts, but in general, I know that a law was put into place giving our energy companies the authority to raise our prices, and we've just taken out the government control. And so
Mhm.
if you have an energy company that's small and really advocates for the town, like REMC, you're pretty okay. But if you have energy companies like Duke Energy, which I do, it seems a little scarier. Duke
Well,
is going to be
I
like,
mean,
I mean, it's just
there were a
interesting with
lot
that.
of energy bills filed. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, that's important to know.
So
Yeah.
you got to know what you're talking about, which ones.
Right.
And we did not do away with the IURC. The Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission is still intact. There are certain things in terms of energy research that can be passed through now. So I just those details matter on those
There's
conversations.
a lot of like energy centers being built in Indiana, and a lot of people are concerned about those because just like using AI takes a lot of energy and stuff. And I don't understand it. So I look forward to having Citizens Action Coalition on so I can learn more of the facts. Are they talking to representatives? Do you know?
They absolutely they have a presence. I am not on, I'm not on the utility committee and the House Ways and Means committee, the finance committee. Those are the two I asked for that I didn't get on this year.
Oh, that's nice that you were trying. Good
Well,
job.
actually, they're important issues. But as a freshman, I didn't know that I would. That is what it is.
Will you get new committees next year, or are you with these for 2 years?
We're usually with them for 2 years. And I hope that is the case because again, the first year I'm still getting to know who the chair is. Each chair has his or her own persona and personality and areas of interest. And I talked about my insurance bill. Once I got the insurance chair to recognize that we could help seniors this way, he signed on as a co-author, and
Nice.
that made it. I don't know that I would have been able to push it across the finish line
Right.
without
You
having
have to be working with other people, especially across the aisle, to get something passed.
Yes.
I appreciate that you're doing that. Yeah, good job.
Well,
I feel like energy, education, library, property taxes, there's some big things that I'm hopeful I can get people on the show that can talk about them, and that we can all work together to advocate and meet representatives. I haven't asked for you. I would love for you to message the representatives, Republican, Democrat, that you work with, and see if they will come on the show and explain what it's like and how they're trying to help and what we can do. Do what you did, give advice, because they're going to know more about their things, their committees. I want to help Indiana. I want to help unite the communities. I want Republicans and Democrats talking, less fighting, and I want to fix real issues to make Hoosiers' lives better. And I see you doing that at the state level, and I'm just so thankful.
Thank you, Sarah. Let me give you I don't want to take viewers away from your show, but there is a podcast that is run by two sitting House members in Indiana. It's called Sessions. And it's Earl Harris Jr. and Blake Johnson, and they have had they're both Democrats. They've had other Democrats on, but they've had some Republicans on, and you can go back and listen. They had Jim Pressel, who's head of the Roads Committee, who was on. They had Speaker Houston came on and talked about what it's like being Speaker of the House, especially, and they talk about the fact that it is a Republican supermajority and what does that mean for him. and it's just here learning some of that insight about not only the topic but the personalities behind the topic, I think is really important. So I'll give them a plug.
I'm just so thankful they're doing that. That's
Yeah.
what we want. We want our representatives to be transparent and to tell us what's going on and try to explain what they know. I know one reason they're not is because they're fearful they're going to get something wrong, because it's too much information for one person to know. I think you're pretty amazing because you say, I don't know enough about this, but I need to research it more. That's all they have to say. We all just need to get to that place where that's okay if you admit you don't know everything. We're all human, you know? But that's wonderful. That makes me feel better. So yay for them. I just wish everybody was like that. And again, it's a mental fitness thing where I don't think everybody feels comfortable. They feel like they're going to be attacked and it's scary. And I get it. I get it. I just encourage people. Like if I had a Republican on my show, I'm not going to yell at them. I just want to know what it's like. What can we do to help? Can we talk about issues? And it's okay if we disagree. Like, it's all right. Like, wait, I don't need to lose my temper and yell. I think with the internet, we've forgotten how to do that.
Yeah, you're right.
I have one question that you can definitely say you don't know anything about if you want, but I just want to open this up. Jesse Brown, city councilman for Indy. He's been on the show. Do you know Jesse Brown?
I do not.
He is, I know he's friends with Destiny Wells, and he's pretty amazing and pretty brave. So he's a Democrat. He's new. He's very popular. And he tried to get some things rolling at the Indy city council level. And the Democrats tried to take him off committees because he was trying to push some things they didn't want to push. And so he had to get his constituents involved. He had to put out emails. He had to get a bunch of people to the meetings to prevent them from kicking him off committees. And he's not on as many committees as a bunch of Republicans are, even though Dems have the control at the city level. He said on a Project Next show that the Indy City Council, that's mostly Democrats, are very scared to act, to do things that Democrats want, because they think the state house is going to try to take over their power because of the Indiana Constitution. Like it's not written in the Indiana Constitution that we have to have an Indianapolis City Council. Do you know anything? Have you heard of this? Because I'm like, I don't think they're going to do that. I think you should go ahead and try to do good for your city.
But let's now you're into big P politics, and this is every office place has politics. Everybody, I mean, everywhere you are, as human beings, we're imperfect, and part of that reason is because we all have some desire for power.
Right.
Whether it's overtly to be subversive about it. So that is, that happens all the time. And I hate to use that. It's like, the eating your own, you sometimes you, or maybe the better theory is the crabs in the bucket theory. You ever put a bunch of crabs in a 5-gallon bucket? One of them gets to the top of the bucket,
and the other ones pull them down.
And the other ones pull them down. We can't do that. I mean, right. But I mean, it becomes counterproductive to do that, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, it's in politics, and it's so sleazy, and I do not like that. And so I'm just telling the Indy City Council to go ahead and try to pass some good things. Like, don't use the fear of the supermajority to stop you, especially with what you're saying. These are most of them are nice people. They're not trying to harm others. They're not trying to take control of the city council. I think that would be a big story, and I think it would look very bad on them if they tried to do that. So I just am saying, let's just stop using that excuse and let's do good at the Indianapolis City Council. And let's not be scared of Jesse Brown, who's just trying to help people. Like, he's big about helping homeless and public education. And it's like most people care about those things.
It's almost like any other family. Every family's got its way of working and its operations. And quite frankly, you and I aren't going to have a lot of control over how that municipality works. Sometimes we just need to bring it back home and say, what can we do best here? And I'm not blowing it off. I'm just saying I don't have the capacity to.
I'm just wondering if this is something. So you're at the state house and they're not talking about taking over the city council. You're not hearing rumblings of that.
So let's talk about a reality that did happen, and I know we're coming to the end of the show here, but there are aspects that we do that affect certain communities. And let's talk about, I mentioned earlier, let's go back to road funding. Road funding in Indianapolis is much, much different. The city of Indianapolis was getting 11 cents on the dollar back from the state for the road to fix the roads. They were putting in $1, they're getting 11 cents back.
Wow.
So that change, House Bill 1461 did alleviate some and sort of right size that for Indianapolis better. So why we wouldn't take over and try to take over Indianapolis if we're trying to say, oh yeah, we hear you, we understand that there's a problem with the funding formula because you're such a big community. And they also have all the commuters coming in. I stayed within the city limits of Indianapolis, but a lot of people who work in Indianapolis don't live there. And so they're using those same roads that I was driving, and the funding formula wasn't in their favor. So we did something to try to address that.
So you're actively trying to help Indy.
Yes. And they have their own advocates. They don't need me to advocate for them, but I heard them. I listened to what that situation was for them.
You've really blown my mind today and given me a lot of hope. You've also helped to direct me with what I want to do with Project Next. How do we use this to help our state? And it's what our mission is anyway. Our mission is to unite our communities, to work together, to stop fear, hate, and division. But you gave me a more direct way to do this. And I just cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. Thank you for being our state house rep.
You were so brave to actually put yourself out here and do this. And I admire you for that. And I wish I want to help you however I can. And I don't know what that actually looks like.
Well, you need to let me know when you can come on and explain what's going on, especially if we're getting stuff wrong. You're in that. You know what's going on. We're trying to know what's going on. If I'm saying something wrong, feel free to let me know and feel free to come on anytime. I'll probably see you at events sometime, so I'll have you on when I can. And yeah, this has been pretty amazing. I know more what to do now. This is great, especially when I'm going to be talking. Like I get to talk to like the director of Citizen Action Coalition or the president of the Public Coalition of Education, and so it helps me to figure out what we need to do to advocate for our state. But the biggest takeaway is these people in that room aren't as awful as we think they are. That's where I'm, because I'm assuming they're actively trying to hurt us or they don't care at all. Yeah. You're saying we need to just bring to the table easy solutions, explain it to them, help them make better policy.
It doesn't mean you're going to change their mind.
And we can try. It's better than some of the other things we're doing.
We are imperfect people working in an imperfect system. But I believe in continuous improvement. So whatever little change we can make to make things better, we're going to benefit long term from that effort.
Also, like being brave is fun, right? Like I saw you get up in front of Hoosier Action in front of like 300 people and you got thrown a question and you answered it in 2 minutes and you did like an amazing job. That you were nervous, you get done, you feel good, right? Don't you? Like, I mean, being brave is fun, especially when you're being brave for the right reasons. Yeah. And I think we've kind of lost that with COVID, the pandemic. There's just been a loss of how to be brave, how to face your fears. People just are like, no, I'm just going to put blinders on and not paying attention to what's going on because it's scary. And it's like, no, we can face this head on and admit our mistakes. Like, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything.
There's a reason roller coasters are so much fun. It's because you are strapped in and you are stuck and you're going to go through this experience. And you can scream your head off, you can close your eyes, you can hold on for dear life, but at the end, you usually have a smile on your face.
Also,
it's because you survived it. I don't know.
There's so much drama and gossip and fake rumors that goes on behind the scenes in politics, and it's hurt me. Like I have people attacking me, especially as Project Next grows, and it takes me a little while to adjust, but like not taking things personally, not judging others and just caring about them and allowing for them to not be perfect and just to keep keep trucking it, keep working, keep doing it. I've seen you had to do that. You've had to face negative rumors. You've had to face things, and I just think you're handling things very well. And I'm so proud to call you a friend.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way about you, Sarah. Keep going along and let me know how I can help.
Same. Same. We text each other. Just know I'm a friend. You let me know if I can help with anything. And everyone, please share this episode. The main info on how we get a hold of our representatives and the right way to talk to them, spread that out to everybody, whatever state you're listening to. This is how we pass better legislation, which then makes our lives better. So get that out, everybody. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then our Facebook episodes stay up for a month. After that, you need to go to YouTube to watch them, and you can go to playlists and just find all of them. So this is a mental fitness show. So go to mental fitness playlist and then find the Wendy Dant Chesser episode, and there you go. But thanks everybody for following us, and have a wonderful day, Wendy. I can't wait. Hopefully I'll see you at an event sometime soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you, and bye.